Hey everybody, I'm here today to show you how to refinish your hardwood flooring. As you can see here, I have about 800 square feet of this old hardwood flooring, and I will be refinishing all of it. And I will be taking you through the step-by-step process that I will be using to refinish this hardwood flooring so that you can sort of do the same thing with your hardwood flooring. So let's get right to it. Alright everyone, so the first step is to remove any obstacles from your hardwood flooring that would obstruct your sanding. So you will be sanding the hardwood floors down, and you're going to want to get rid of anything that would obstruct that sanding of the floor. So one example that I have right here is a staple. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this staple by prying it out with a little flathead screwdriver, sort of loosening it up a little bit. Once it's loose enough, I'm going to use these pliers right here just to pull it right out of the hardwood flooring. Nice and easily. Be careful. You don't want to tear the hardwood flooring out completely, okay? So just take it nice and slowly, just like that. And as you can see, this staple would have definitely obstructed my sanding, okay, when I'm going to be sanding the floors. So you're going to go through your hardwood flooring and you're going to remove any staples that you may have in the hardwood flooring. You're going to either remove any nails or punch them below the surface of the hardwood flooring, and anything, literally anything that you find throughout the hardwood flooring that would obstruct your ability to sand them properly, you're going to want to remove them or put them below the surface of the hardwood flooring. Alright everyone, so the next step in the process of doing your floors is to sand your floors. So once you have them completely clear of any obstacles, so those nails, those staples, anything that would be sticking out of the floor, and you have it completely free of any obstacles, you're going to want to sand the floor. Now, sanding is a complete talent and skill in itself, so you're going to want to do a lot of research to sort of, find out how to sand a floor properly, because that is a complete separate video that can be posted and is a completely separate skill and talent. So you should definitely do your own research and find that out. But to sum it up, there are many different sanding tools that you can use to sand your floors, okay? And you're going to want to do some research and figure out which tool is best for your comfort level, your experience level, and your hardwood floors, okay? Now in my case, I'm using this just hand sander, okay? It's very simple. It's a 1/3 sheet sander. It's very basic, and I've heard tons of criticism for that, but fire away, because I've done it and I'm still doing it right now and it's working perfectly fine. I'm just trying to do these floors on a completely small budget, and a hand sander was the cheapest option because I already had one, so I was just able to use it. I didn't have to rent anything, I didn't have to buy anything other than the actual sandpaper. And with regards to the sandpaper, I am first going over the floor with a 60 grit sandpaper. Once that's done, I'm going to go over the floor with an 80 grit sandpaper. And once that's done, I'm going to go over the floor with a 100 grit sandpaper. So start from coarse and work your way to fine. And once again, you're going to want to do some research on the different levels of sandpaper that you can use, because it all depends on the type of flooring you have, and how worn down that floor is already. In my case, I'm starting off with 60 grit, then moving on to 80 grit, and then finally moving on to 100 grit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sand this area. You're going to also want to make sure, on a side note, that you've prepared the area for sanding. So tape off any vents, cover any furniture, move anything out that you can, and just get the area completely clear and ready for sanding. And with that being said, I'm going to start sanding. So as you can see, I have just finished sanding this entire room along with the majority of the hallway with the 60 grit sandpaper. And what I did after the sanding was finished was I vacuumed up all of the excess, dust particles that were created as I was sanding. So I vacuumed them up. Then I'm going to show you the next step. And that is to take a bucket of water and a rag, and obviously squeeze the rag so that it's just barely damp, and then take that damp rag and just use it to just rinse out the floor basically. And what this will do is it will get out all of the excess dust particles that were created, okay? And you're gonna do this exact same process, the vacuum and the wipe with the wet rag, after each sanding session. So I just finished the 60 grit sanding session and I vacuumed it. I'm going to wipe the floors with a damp rag. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the 80 grit sanding session, vacuum and rag, and then also with the 100 grit sanding session, vacuum and rag. So you're going to want to ensure that you do those two things, vacuum up the excess dust particles and wipe your floors down with a damp rag after each sanding session that you are doing on the floors. All right, everyone, now the floor has been sanded with the 60, 80, and 100 grit sandpaper, and it has been vacuumed and washed with water multiple times. So the next step is sort of optional, and it depends on your situation. I have quarter rounds at the bottom of the baseboards right there. Obviously they're taped off with green tape right now, but there are quarter rounds that I do not want to damage or get any stain on. So what I have done is gone throughout the entire house and used painter's tape to tape off or to mask off the quarter rounds there at the bottom of the baseboards and all of the trim. And what this will do is prevent any stain from getting on any of the trim. So this step is once again optional. If you do not have any trim there that you might damage or get stain on, then you don't have to tape anything off. But if you do have trim, then you're going to want to sand all the floors, wash the floors, vacuum the floors multiple times until all the dust is gone, and then tape off your trim so that you don't get any stain on it. And once that is done and everything is off the floor, you are ready for the actual staining portion of the process. So as you can see, the stain is being brushed onto the hardwood floors with the grain. So we are using a brush right there to literally apply the stain onto the hardwood floors with the grain. And then I take a seat right here, sorry about the shaky camera, and I use a rag to wipe off the excess stain, and once again trying as much as possible to go with the grain. There are areas like, around the baseboards and whatnot that I had to go against the grain when I was wiping it up, but for the most part I tried to stay with the grain and just simply brush it on with a paintbrush and wipe the excess stain off with the rag, and you should have a pretty good finish. Alright everyone, now that the stain has had enough time to dry, I am ready to apply the finish to it. So my preference is to apply 2 to 3, or as many as you want, thin layers, as opposed to thick layers. Thin layers not only dry faster, but they also look better because you're going over it many times with a thin coat. So I have the finish right here, and it doesn't look clear, but it ends up being clear when I put it on. This is a water-based finish, I dip the brush in it and simply just wring it out so that it's not soaked. And then I usually start with the edges just like that, and then I work my way into the floor, and I literally just cover the entire hardwood floor area that I stained with this finish by painting it on. Now there are various ways to actually get the finish onto the floor, but I'm choosing to use a paintbrush because it allows me to get in there a little bit, with quite a bit of accuracy, and I'm not very experienced in doing hardwood floors. So, if you're a beginner and you're doing hardwood floors for the first time, then you should definitely use a brush. It's slower, but it's much easier to control, and you can get into the spots that you missed and so forth. So basically just get the finish on the brush and then just lather it on in thin layers, and obviously give it enough time to dry in between layers. And you should definitely check your package for that. Check the package that the finish comes in for that amount of time, and it will indicate the length of time that you should leave it to dry. Alright everyone, just to keep you updated, this is what the floor looks like with the first coat of finish, now that the first coat of finish has dried. So what I will be doing now is I will be applying the second coat of finish to the floor and giving it some time to dry, and then I'll sort of take a look at it and see whether or not it needs a third coat of finish. And once again, each coat of finish that I'm applying is a very thin coat of finish, and any additional coats that I put on now will be done using the same method that I have just shown you. So basically I'm going to have a simple paintbrush, and then I'm going to have the finish in a bucket. I'm going to dip the paintbrush in the finish and then simply lather it on the floor with the paintbrush. Once again, I will be doing one additional coat and possibly 2 additional coats, and then I'll get back to you with another update. Alright everyone, this is the final update in this tutorial slash project, and as you can see, the hardwood floors are completely finished, and this is how they look after the 3 coats of finish have been applied and have had time to dry, and the tape has been removed from the baseboards and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, they don't look perfect, but they do look, you know, ridiculously better than before. There have been some massive improvements from how the hardwood floors looked before being refinished. This whole project cost me just over $200. So I think it was just shy of $220 for the entire project, and that is obviously just the materials, because the labor, obviously I haven't included the labor, my own labor, into that cost. So $220, give or take, plus quite a bit of labor, and you get some refinished hardwood floors. So once again, you know, refinishing your hardwood floors doesn't have to cost you a lot of money, and it is not that difficult. Even an inexperienced do-it-yourselfer can definitely refinish their hardwood floors, just like I have done here. And just to clarify, I have used, I did 1 coat, obviously, of stain on the floors and 3 coats of finish, and then they look like this. So just follow the instructions throughout this video and throughout this tutorial, and you can have your hardwood floors refinished and looking much better in absolutely no time. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.